My name is Gearheart, and we are going to talk about the peak performance mindset. Mark is my co-host.
Hello, thank you very much. And I'm pulling you up on Facebook to push you out on my channel too.
Hi, Gearheart. Hi, I'm Kurt Shaver with Vengresso. Looking forward to talking mindset.
Hi, I'm Christine Harrington, the savvy sales lady, and I'm all about mindset too.
Mark, why don't we start out by defining what mindset means? What does it mean to you?
Well, mindset really is the foundation from which everything we do is built on. I mean, I look at my own mindset, the mindset I have when I wake up in the morning, crafts the next hour. The mindset I develop throughout the day continues to craft the day. And just as you and I have talked, historical experiences impact our mindset. But I really think the mindset is the foundation of one's success, or can I use the word failure? I don't think your mindset ever stops developing. Let's put it that way. It is on a continuous journey, and it's what we fuel it with. You know, the late Zig Ziglar said motivation and showering are a lot alike. It's best done every day.
The way I like to look at it is if you're thinking of your brain as a computer, then the mindset would be the operating system. And in some cases, people leave that operating system like in DOS, in the DOS era. Upgrade it, and they don't change it, and they don't know they can reprogram it. And when it comes to the computer applications like Zoom.us or like Facebook or like Excel or Word, those are all applications. And it's very similar with the mindset, because we have a belief system that is the application of the operating system. So if we have a belief system that cold calling is fun, we're going to do more cold calling. But if we have a belief system that says, well, I don't want to interrupt people, then we're going to limit our potential. Chad, you are joining us. Say hello and tell us where you are.
Thanks for having me today. I'm in Denver, Colorado. It's a bright, shining day outside calling because I've just recently gone through a job change and started with a company called Talent Reef, where I'm the VP of Sales and Business Development. And, you know, bringing in a new technology to this company, Connect and Sell and Outreach, the mindset was 50 to 80 dials a day is what's possible, and talking to 2 or 3 people per day is the possibility. And, you know, bringing in this technology and now showing that 500 dials to 1,000 dials is now possible and better than talking to 2 or 3 people. Now you can talk to 30 or 40. You have to be able to embrace that mindset and prepare for change.
So you bring up an interesting topic, which is mindset ceilings. Christina, can you share your experience on how you have recognized that there's more in store for you than just same old?
It started with coaching and working with sales teams. And I noticed that you can train people the same way. You can go tell them every step to take, but some will be wildly successful and others won't at all. You know, if all it took was learning a sales process, and everybody should be tremendously successful, right? But they're not. And I found that over the 40 years of my career too, when I was selling insurance. So I started delving into what is the missing link here. And that's when I discovered mindset. And then, of course, your mindset workshops have really helped my clients to the point that I did a case study, as I shared with you. One of the salespeople improved 38% from the time they took the workshop until the end of a 12-week period. Overall, the company improved in sales 68%. The mindset teaches you how to be more self-aware, but you also have to be committed to learning and improving. each and every day. If you're not self-aware, a computer will automatically do updates for you. Well, if you're not self-aware, you automatically, your computer in your mind automatically just does the same old thing all the time unless you stop it and redirect it.
Talk about your own experience, because you and I had a conversation when you went to training, and we talked about Fitbit. And tell us how that impacted you.
I had to lose weight, and Gearheart invited me to be in his Fitbit challenge. So, and let me tell you, Reese Bacon and Gearheart are machines. They really are. And so every week I decided that I was going to do so much, maybe X amount of steps more each week. As a result, as of today, Gearheart, I've lost 30 pounds.
Hey.
Awesome. That is incredible.
I'm really, really pleased with, first of all, thank you for inviting me to the challenges. But when you have leaders like you and Reese, it gives me, and we're all around the same age group, it gives me the vision, a possibility of what I can do. That's what's so powerful about it.
Right. There's a quick question from Carol Maloney, is a participant, and she's asking, is there a difference between outlook and mindset? Kurt, how would you answer that?
Well, I guess tough question depending on what we consider outlook and mindset. I mean, I'm going to go back to the metaphor that, and I'm sure whether you or Mark mentioned it, but it's the computer operating system metaphor of your mind, right? So that really dictates what your beliefs are, and then your beliefs lead to some actions, and then the actions are ultimately going to lead to results. So if we look at this in the context of sales peak performance, I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening in or involved here have maybe been in a sales management role. So in that context, if you're managing a team, probably the first thing you're looking at is the results, right? Are people hitting the number? If they're not hitting the number, then the next layer of the onion you're going to peel back is, okay, well, what are their activities? What are their actions, right? What are they doing? You're going to want to look at those. But then underneath that is ultimately going to be the belief, is ultimately going to be the beliefs that are driven by the mindset. So specific to the question, I mean, to me, they're both similar, your outlook and your mindset. It's really how do you interpret what's going on right now based a lot of times on what has happened in the past, right? What is the current version of the operating system that you're working on?
Let's go back to what Chad talked about in terms of going from 100 dials a day to 200 to 500, whatever. Because I'll see that in various offices. I'll go into various companies and they got a sales office in one city and their performance standard is X. I go to another one and their performance standard is Y. It's because of how they look at things. And it really comes down to, who do you surround yourself with? When I look at changing or creating a positive mindset, I find it's, what am I putting into my mind? What am I allowing myself to believe? And, I hate to say this, but we really do become who we hang out with the most. And if you hang out with, I'm going to throw it out there, losers, you will become a loser. So we have to be very careful about who we hang out with. And sometimes we can hang out with them in person. Sometimes it's more virtual, i.e., for instance, this, we have people who are watching this and people who will view the YouTube video who will capture this and use the video to motivate their mindset. But it really comes down to, who do you surround yourself with? What do you allow yourself to believe? I'm up on the news, but I watch very little news on television because it's negative. It's negative. I'm not going to put that into my mindset.
I've been a quota carrying sales leader for 20 years. And I started to become associated with entry-level lead generation. And so by now pivoting back into quota carrying sales, my mindset gets reprogrammed into, oh yeah, I have a quota to hit, right? The CEO sent me a message this morning and said, okay, hey, these tools that we put in place are fantastic. Productivity, 3 times increase in activity, but now let's focus on the monthly number.
Michael says, when I met Iana Reno, he told me that most of my beliefs have infected me through time. So seek out people who have beliefs and mindset that you want to emulate and infect yourself with those beliefs. A lot of people talk a good game when they say, I believe this and I believe that, but when it comes to acting on their beliefs, then they're not always consistent. So, Mark, how do you address that?
Gearheart, you've always made the comment to me that, Mark, you're so positive and you're so on fire all the time. And no, there are times that I'm down, but I got enough of a reservoir in me that I know that, hey, I'm going to play the long game. I think one of the reasons why people become demotivated is because they start playing the short game. Play the long game. You know what's interesting? The sun is going to come up tomorrow morning. It will. I guarantee it. And it starts a new day afresh. It starts a new opportunity. And I think that's just one of the mental mindsets that we have to realize. When I was in corporate America, I used to have an expression is people would come into my office with unbelievable problems. And, oh, we got to do this, we got to do this. And I say, you know what? Nothing we do here today is going to change the course of mankind tomorrow. Breathe deeply, relax. Nothing. It all works its way through. The challenges we face today, think about this. 99% of them, barring health or something like that, we'll look at 6 months from now and go, really? We were worried about that? You're kidding. Move on. Long game.
Chad, you have gone through a pretty amazing transformation now from one company to another. You have a new boss, you have a new team, you have a new rule book, you have new KPIs, and obviously you want to win. What are you afraid of?
I think of the term, the bigger the why, the bigger the try. You gave me that one a couple of years ago. You have to know your why. And for me, it's helping generally entry-level sellers to build their career from scratch. And the why for me is because 20 years ago, and my first sales job was an utter failure. I got up on stage in New York City and talked in front of a group, and I froze. I didn't know what to say. I got the red in the face. And then I came back to the field, and 7 months later, I was asked to leave the organization. And so my why is to help people through that fear, because I ended up doing okay in sales and continued to learn every day. But that's the why, that's the reservoir. And so I could be afraid of a lot of things, right? Am I going to hit my number this month? Am I going to make enough money? Did I walk away from a lot of money? There's a lot of things that cross your mind, but at the end of the day, if you have the why, then all those things are, tiny little speed bumps along the way.
Kurt, what is your why?
I would say my biggest why is really around family. And family, in my case, my wife and I, next week we celebrate 31 years of marriage. But we don't have any kids, but we've got 9 nieces and nephews. And so, Gearheart, I think I shared with you this project I started last year that I called the Nieces and Nephews Academy. And we just had so much fun with it. And essentially, guys, what we did was we took this exact format like we all do in our business, right? With like a Zoom video conference, except in this case, instead of all these thought leaders going across the bar, I had all my nieces and nephews that were logged in on their video conference. And it was so exciting in many ways, one of which was realize that there was like 2 halves. There was 2 groups there, right? So there was my nieces and nephews, and there was my wife's nieces and nephews. Obviously, the 2 halves didn't know each other at all because they had no connectivity. And the ages spanned from 31 down to 14. And it was really fun, like the dynamics and the relationships people had and commonalities that they learned about being scattered all over. And again, I did this after I had gone through the Peak Performance Mindset program with Gearheart. And so the main goal was really to build this relationship kind of between the people, but so that we had a theme around it. It was kind of this 6-week program that was built around accomplishing some goal, right? And so everybody picked their goal, and then we had this team kind of collaboration where the peers would ask questions or maybe challenge people or celebrate them. So my why is mostly around. I would say it's mostly around sort of extending family ties when my wife and I don't have kids, to have that, to have the one direct family size.
You created a community of learning, and also you strengthened the family bond. And this is something that they may recreate with their extended family in the future.
Do you see the question? If you're not sure of your why, how do you find it?
There's a wonderful story that really illustrates the power of clarity and the question, what are you not sure of your why? How do you find it? You're not going to find it on the outside, that's for sure. You got to look inside. That's where the answer is. And there's the example from Justin Rose, who when he was 17, he almost won the British Open at 17. He came in 4th place. And then he decided the same day, I'm going to go pro. Forget about everything else. So he put all his eggs in one basket and decided to become a pro golfer. And then he missed the next 21 consecutive cuts. He could not enter a major tournament if his life depended on it. And then he saw a sports psychologist, and I read the book that the psychologist wrote about his conversations with Justin Rose. And it was agonizing because Justin asked him one question. The psychologist asked Justin, why do you play golf? And he says, well, to win the British Open, to win the US Open, to make money, to get in the newspaper, to be number one, And the psychologist said, it's all external stuff. The why has to come within. If you make a commitment in your mind, you lose it the moment you encounter resistance. If you make a commitment in your heart, nothing is going to hold you back. So after many conversations, he came up with the idea, why don't I try to get the best out of me with every shot I take? With every shot I take, I want to be in the moment. I'm not going to concentrate on the foursome on the green. I'm not going to concentrate on the leaderboard. I'm not going to think about the shot I just missed. I'm not going to think about the shot after that. I just want to be the best I can be with every shot. And then he won the US Open. And the why is the most important part. Don't look for it outside. Look for the why within. Mary Kay said, everybody is born with an instrument. We need to know what it is and then learn how to play it. So ultimately, you realize sooner or later that you have only one chance in life to be what you want to be. So you want to be inspired by the fact that this is a fleeting chance you have. So you want to choose something that's meaningful to you. And Steven Spielberg said in the commencement address to Harvard graduates in 2016, your conscience tells you what you ought to do, but your intuition tells you what you could do. And the why comes from within, and the why is very close to your intuition. And in your heart of hearts, everybody knows the why. It's just a mental process to connect with that. Does that make sense?
I've got to jump in here. Gearheart, what is your why? What is your why?
Well, I'm attracted to the idea of helping other people win. And I want to go back to a conversation I had in a coffee shop in Salzburg, Austria, when I grew up. And I was in an amateur theater group at that time. And I was fascinated with everything show. And there was a guy sitting in that coffee house. Everybody has their table and they get a coffee and they read their newspapers and people talk to each other. And I was with a friend and I asked the guy, what do you do? And he says, I'm a salesman. And he looked very wealthy, so I was curious. And he says, I sell washers and dryers. I said, how do you do that? Don't you buy this in the store? He says, no, I create events. I let the customers do the walking. I bring them to a room and I have a talk with them and I do demonstrations. And then he put out a wad of dollar bills, shillings, and showed us the money that he made. And I was fascinated by how good he was in presenting what he was selling. So he was a presentation champion, and he probably made a lot of money. But then later, I took this, and when I got my first job, I was in charge of advertising and public relations and sales development. And I went back to that experience, what I learned from acting, and I transferred those skills, and I helped salespeople, and I was joking about this, impersonate a sales professional. So if actors can assume a character, any character, then salespeople can assume the role of a top professional. And then I saw the difference, that all of a sudden salespeople behave differently, they adopted a different belief system, they tried new behaviors, and all of a sudden they made more money. And that's the why. I'm addicted to that because I see how lives change because people think differently, their behavior is different, their actions are different, their results are different.
Does that mean you can act your way into a behavior?
Absolutely. Acting is a mindset shift, and that's what we are talking about. I throw that ball right back at you, where you told me you grew up stuttering, and then you challenged yourself to become a radio host. How is that compatible with stuttering? So you assumed another personality.
That's right.
And explain that shift. How does your voice sound when you go radio?
You're listening to the Mindy 95 KQZ Radio, 719 in the city, going to a high of 68. And I love doing that for sound checks whenever I'm getting ready to speak. It blows the AV people away.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The mindset shift is from stuttering Mark Hunter,
right,
you go to the fluid radio presenter. So you can act your way into a new behavior.
That's what a lot of people are just simply afraid to do. They're afraid to step out of their own shadow into acting a new behavior. And then after a while, that acting becomes the norm. And it's no longer acting, but it becomes who they are.
Right.
One of the things that I do for my private clients along this lines, I ask them who is a salesperson, the top salesperson that they admire and want to emulate. And then I have them list the characteristics of that salesperson that they want to emulate. And after that, I say, okay, then this is you. Every day, review these characteristics and make this a part of you. And 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the line, I hear back from them, and it's like they've become that person now. It's a powerful exercise.
And the thing is, when you take the acting analogy, you can also take the director analogy, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function of the brain, which we call the inner CEO. And the inner CEO is the director of the play called life. And we can redirect, we can even rewrite the script. We can connect our success to our talents. We can connect our mindset to our intuition, and we can achieve amazing things in the process.
You know, I was a career salesperson in the tech sales business and had worked my way up to be the VP of sales of a software company. I had actually followed the president of my company that I'd worked with for a few years. He left to become the CEO of a new software company, and he brought me over to run the sales team as the VP of sales. And everything went, it was owned by a private equity company. And everything went great for the first 2 years. And then the CEO and the board had kind of a parting of beliefs. And so my CEO resigned. And then within about an hour, the VP of HR was in my office saying, yeah, the CEO just resigned and the board would like your resignation too, right? Because I was his guy, right? So they knew a new CEO would want to bring in a new VP of sales. So that then prompted a very big mindset shift. I think a lot of times the mindset shifts, they're oftentimes triggered by an event. And a lot of times that event at first appears to be maybe like a negative thing, right? I got forced out, asked to resign. And then, as somebody said earlier, when you look at them with the advantage of some history behind it, it turns out to be a very positive thing. So that was actually the trigger for me to do something that I'd been wanting to do for years, which was to actually start my own business.
Chad, talk about the hole-in-one story.
And we got to the last par 3. I won't talk about the ones before that because, it was in preview of the last par 3 of the day. And I really felt like this is it. I almost did it before. I was 4 feet away from the hole in that hole. And I said, today's the day, right? And it was, I saw Tiger Woods shoot a hole-in-one in 1997 at the Phoenix Open at this hole 16, which is the stadium course where everybody cheers like crazy. And so I was thinking of that going, all right, I've got an audience here. Gearhart's with me. In the air, I'm going, this sucker's going in the hole. And by the way, I coached one other person to shoot a hole-in-one once. I was at the course maybe 5 years prior, and he shot a hole-in-one. I told him, put the 7 back. You need to hit a 9. It's only 140 yards. And it was an older guy. Not that I have room to talk these days, but he shot a hole-in-one. So I'm going, all right, here we go. Tiger Woods shot a hole-in-one. This other guy shot a hole-in-one. Here I go. This is my chance. And I hit it to within 3-4 inches from the hole. It was that close. So then Gearheart and I are talking at this conference that we put on called Sales Velocity in Denver. And there was about 100 and something people in the audience. And there was a person sitting in the front row and heard me tell a story that I just told you. And sure as heck, 2 days later, she goes up to the mountains. She's not played much golf at all in her life. And she tells her boyfriend, I'm going to shoot a hole-in-one today. I heard Gearheart and Chad tell a story. Why can't I do it? And she gets up on the very first hole and shoots a hole-in-one. And it was like, and so then we did a webinar with her after that fact. And she said, what does this help me do in business? She's like, if I can just put my mind to shooting that little white thing in the hole and into one, those odds are, I play Vegas sometimes. Those are not very good odds. That'd probably be like hitting, 15 blackjacks in a row, I would guess. Maybe not 15, maybe 5. But hard to do, right? I don't think I've ever had 5 blackjacks in a row. And she did it. And so what she learned from that statement and that experience is that anything that you want to do in business, it's the same thing.
Well, what's your question?
Well, it's more of a question for everybody here too, is to obviously maintaining a positive outlook and developing a peak performance mindset, I think has already been said. It's something that you need to do constantly, like taking a shower. So I'm wondering if you guys would share some of the ways that you've done that, like on a daily basis. How do you maintain that outlook and that mindset so that, you are taking that shower? Like, what do you actually do? And I'll go first. One of the things that I have found, and I'm sure there's some research on there, and there's plenty of documentation, is how your physical state or your exercise, things like that, how that connects to you developing a positive outlook and developing a good mindset. So I'm, yoga, running. I just started learning how to bike. I'm starting to learn how to swim, which I know I'm 42 years old and you would think I would know how, but my sister's convincing me to train for a triathlon. And part of that is how to swim athletically. And it's hard. It's the breathing part of it is hard. But these are things that I do to like consistently challenge myself to develop a positive mindset, push myself outside of that comfort zone. So that's just some of the things that I do. But I'd love to hear, Christine, what you do and what everyone else does on a regular basis to try to maintain that.
Good question. Christine?
Yeah, thanks, Carol. One of the things that I do every single morning is morning rituals, right? And I found that if I miss my morning rituals, I don't have the same type of day. So I start the day, obviously in prayer, but gratitude as well. Now, one of the things that has been an epidemic, I think, in the world is a lack of concentration, because they're so distracted with all of the noise, and people work with their radios playing or the TV going, and they leave work with migraines, and they're stressed out, and they have high anxiety. So one of the things that's part of my practice that I absolutely teach to my clients is work in solitude. Have the silence around you to comfort you, instead of all of the noise going around. And that, for me, and the feedback I've gotten from my clients, has really helped them keep their mood and their positive attitude.
Now, what if you work in a place, there's a lot of places that they have those open workspaces. SaaS software companies are notorious for this. How does someone who's in that environment, you're at a startup, any startup you walk into has got to be the most distracting place in the world. It's like a kid in a candy store. Literally, they have candy walls. So how does someone in that situation shut out the noise, like you said, that they don't have, sometimes they have places that they can go, but how do you shut it out? Like, do you get the big headphones all the time and block it out that way? What do you do?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. You can also set up just timing goals where you can focus on something, and you can slowly build those up as your focus gets better. So I think that if you're in like an open office area, that you could just say like, okay, I'm diving into this project for 15 minutes. I'm going to give it my undivided attention for 15 minutes. And even if you can just do that for like a couple of minutes, you can usually hit some flow to where that focus and concentration kind of helps keep you focused in on it. So I think that's one way to do it. The other thing that I think is important, kind of in the context of this, and I really liked what you said, Carol, about the exercising. And hey, congratulations for your triathlon goal.
Yeah,
that's very
cool. Talk to me next year. We'll see how.
Okay, I will. We will talk to you next year. But I think that what you're demonstrating there, I think that is so important is this balance, right? It's kind of having some balance and not letting any part of your life, whether it's personal or work or health and fitness or spiritual or financial or something, not letting anything get too dominant, and having an awareness of when these things are happening, because as anybody that's on this call right now is obviously you're a student of mindset, you're a student of self-development, and I think part of that is going to be kind of like self-awareness of like, okay, where am I right now? Am I a little out of kilter? Am I a little bit out of balance? And then if you can recognize it, then again, through things like Gearhart's doing otherwise, then if you can recognize it with that self-awareness that I'm a little bit off the path, then there are certain tools and techniques you can say that are going to bring you back onto the balance. And so that's kind of what I think of when I think about how do you maintain focus. I think you got to have all those elements in balance.
Yeah, a number of routines that you can develop, like Christine has her routine. I have my routine as well. And what I like to do at least 2 or 3 times a day is to just close my eyes, and as I breathe in, I say, I'm aware of my body. And as I breathe out, I say, I'm letting go of all my stress, of all my tensions. And I do this like 5 times, in and out. It takes maybe 60 seconds to do. And I feel different afterwards. And it's when you change your physiology, you change your psychology. The same thing with arms over your head. The victory position, where you get that burst of energy, where your anxiety gets lower, your stress gets lower, and you feel the cortisol building up, and you feel more energized.
I can't help but think about the rules and instructions when we get on an airplane. In case of loss of oxygen, air mask will fall. Put your mask on first before helping those around you. Before we really take care of our mindset, we're not going to be in a position to help anybody else with theirs. But that's really what our goal is. How do we help other people?
Right. Mark, what are the three major takeaways from today?
Well, the three major takeaways I'd say is it really starts with ourselves and what is the mindset that we have and how do we use that to impact others? And as I like to say, how do we impact others in a positive way that's going to really influence them? That to me is the big takeaway from today. Another great discussion.
Kurt, what's your takeaway?
My big takeaway is I need to get my Fitbit tracker and get in the competition with all you guys. You're inspiring.
Awesome. We invite you. Let us know when you're ready. Christine, what's your takeaway?
Well, my takeaway would be that if we would just open our minds, anything's possible. If we would just open up to it and keep learning.
And we lost Chad, but he is texting us. His takeaway is know the why. Carol, what's your takeaway?
Trial and error. Don't be afraid to try something and fail and learn from it and try something else, because that's how you find your why. That's how you learn.
My takeaway is that everybody in this webcast wants to help other people do better and be better and feel better. And to me, that's the biggest reward when we get stories like the ones you've shared. And I'm grateful that we all took time out to help people on Facebook Live. And we are going to edit this. And we're going to continue our conversation next Wednesday, Mark, at 2:30. You have the final word, Mark.
Hey, the final word is this. When we know the why, then we'll really be in a position to use our gifts and our talents to the fullest maximum capability.